Welcome to MCO455. One of the things you'll see is that everything for this course is included in my.singacollege.ca. So once you log into Blackboard, you should be able to find here your various lab sections and theory sections. So for instance, this AC is your theory section, EE is a lab, and so forth. So let's take a look at how things are laid out in here. Now you can get access to the information. So let's look at the theory first. So if we look at the theory, we have announcements on here. It talks about semester startup. And one of the things that's nice about this course is there's no cost involved. Everything is online. All you need is safety glasses and a wrist strap. And let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So under course information, you have your course outline, your tentative schedule. On the tentative schedule, when you look at that, it goes through all the breakdown of how things are here. For instance, our lab tests, we have 2, we're at 20%. So all the stuff is here. Prescribed text, online course notes, and week by week it tells you what we hope to be covering. And it also shows you, if you scroll down here, when the midterm is, when the lab tests are, all the big evaluations, and my favorite, study week. But as you go through here, it also shows about other things such as term test 2, final exam review, project submissions, and the week before the exams will be term test 2 and lab test 2, and finally the final exam. So this was under course information. Under course documents, this stuff are reference things that you may be using at some point, but not all that interesting. The more important stuff is under course notes. So if you take a look at course notes, all the course notes that you have from introductory notes, everything you need for the entire course is here by chapters. So there's all together 6 chapters, even has a crib sheet that's going to be used for lab test 2, midterm 2, and the final exam. Everything is in here. So for instance, what you should be doing for the first week is looking at the introductory notes, which talks about microcontrollers, talks about things like this, which is also going to be referred to later, as you'll see, in the Lab 1 video. So the very first thing that you're going to be doing is dealing with the introductory notes, because the first thing we're going to be working on is Lab 1. So if we look under Labs, we'll see here there's Lab 1 number conversion. So this is what we're going to be working on the first week. And what we're going to have to be able to do is be able to do conversions between binary, octal, hex without the use of a calculator. Octal, binary, hex, convert from hex to binary to octal, and be able, with the use of a ASCII chart, be able to look up and write down the messages. In other words, what's in RAM or some part of memory as a message here as a string, or take a string and put that back into hex values. We're going to be adding and subtracting hex and figure out something called NZVC, which are condition codes, which we'll look at later. Also being able to do binary addition and subtraction. Be able to do 8-bit unsigned conversions. Now this particular type of question will be on term test 1 worth 10 marks and on the final exam worth 10 marks. The other one, which has to do with signed conversions, will be on the term test 1 for 12 marks and on final exam for 12 marks. So these are things that you're going to need to know as we go through here. So that was under labs that we just looked at here, and that's the first lab you should print out, as it mentions in the announcements at the start. You should print out lab 1 here and have it ready to go and bring that. Now also on videos, what we'll find here is we'll be using something called Code Warrior, which is okay for use at home, but for the most part you're going to be working with that in the lab. But here we are, Lab 1 number conversions and calculations. So if you look here, this will show you how to do all of Lab 1 here, and all you have to do is watch it. So that's Lab 1, which you should watch as a video. Now once you've done that, you will also need to worry about assessment. So under assessment, if we take a look here, we have introductory chapter practice, which we'll have given to you after we complete chapter 1, which will be probably within a week. And if we look here and click on it, this is the practice quiz. All the practice quizzes and lab pre-quizzes we'll see shortly are 1 hour and 30 minutes or 90 minutes in length. So if we say begin, just to give you an idea here, it'll ask questions about the address bus, blah, 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 and you'll answer true, false. So this is the kind of thing that you're going to be doing here. Let me just get out of this page. Now, it will not allow you to do this normally in a test because it will do an auto submit, and we'll be talking about other things along those lines. So what we've looked at so far is what's under MCO 455 and your theory section. So let's take a look. Let's go back to My Seneca Home and slide down here, and let's look at one of the lab sections. I'm just going to pull up one randomly, say CC, which is a lab section. Now everything is pretty much the same here. It talks about a lot of the same things under announcements, course information, course documents, course notes are all here. But the big difference, all of this stuff is the same as the theory except for the assessment. Now the assessment has to do with lab pre-quizzes, and here's the way it works. Lab 2 pre-quiz you're going to have to do, and for this particular group it's due before a certain time at midnight because all the lab pre-quizzes are going to be done the day before you have to do the lab. So this will give you an idea of how to do the lab. Now to figure that out, and this is going to have to be done before the second week of labs, if we look at videos here, the Lab 2 video is part of what you're going to have to watch, so we click on that and it'll take you through what it is you have to do for Lab 2. And then it will ask you questions in the lab pre-quizzes. So let's take a look there. Let's take a look here under assessment, Lab 2 pre-quiz. Now you'll notice here that all the labs up to Lab 7 have a pre-quiz which will be done the week before the lab. So if we do Lab 2 pre-quiz, let me just make this a little bigger so you can see it easier. Again, these are 90 minutes in length, and these will be questions based on what was covered in the video, and the video will connect up not only what's in the lab but also where that applies in the notes. Now after each quiz, under Tools, let's just go here, Tools, and under Tools you'll find something called My Grades. Now under My Grades it will tell you and give you access to all the grades on Blackboard. And what I'm going to be doing over the course, when you start looking at your marks, I'm going to be giving a lab average to date or lab ATD for the lab portion, which is what this is because it's CC for lab. I'll also be giving you a theory average to date, and we'll be going through all of that as well as you go through here. So you'll be getting constant feedback as to how you're doing on the online quizzes. Now if you need to contact me under faculty information, you can click here and you should be able to send me email directly very easily. And if you want to see my timetable, you can click here, and for this particular semester it will show you where my classes are. And typically what you'll find is I'm usually in at least an hour before my classes, and on this particular case here from about 11:40 until about 12:30 I can be available for any help that you need, and you can schedule some of that stuff as well by sending me an email and saying I need to see you for help at any point. But most of the information is here, and it's just a matter of going through this. Now when you're working on your labs themselves and you printed out your labs, and if you take a look at labs, you should actually, when you're printing out lab 1, print out all the labs so you have them ready to go. I'll even show you, here's your final project that you need to do. Now each semester there's a different project. This particular semester there's going to be the burglar alarm project, and it's going to take you through that, and it's going to involve formatting up the PC screen using something called HyperTerminal and using CodeWire. Also you're going to have to be working with the LCD, and there's a keypad, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you're going to find on the interface board, and you're going to get comfortable with as you go through. Now at the bottom of this it shows you here's the interaction it's going to have to do. There's also a video to show you how that interaction works, and at the bottom it has a checklist of features that you're going to need to have working to get full marks for your project. Now we'll be asking by the end of this first half of the course for project groups. So there's the functionality is worth 7, the documentation is worth 8. So the printout, making a printout look nice, 4 marks. Something called structured diagrams, basically Nasty Snyderman diagrams, which we're going to be using as part of this course, will also be part of what you're going to be marked on for the project. Now once you've used this information for, say, the Lab 2 video, because you're going to have to do the lab pre-quiz, so when you watch the Lab 2 video it's going to take you through all the things that you're going to have to be able to do. And the nice thing is once you've done the lab pre-quiz, also in the lab you can then watch the same video in the lab if you're having trouble getting the lab accomplished. But what you should find is you should be able to have most of the stuff pre-done before you come in the lab. So the onus is on you to get yourself organized and to do well in this course. All the learning materials are here, and all I'm going to be spending time in class time doing is basically just going over and asking you, what did you not understand about this? Because all of the information, especially in Lab 1, that deals with this is here. You can read it over, you can print it out. It will always be available online until after your exam. So all this information is here. You can print out or just put it on your portable device where you can have access to it. But we will be going through C programming for the most part and understanding what that means in terms of how it's implemented inside the microcontroller. So as we go down through here, it talks about a lot of different reasons why we're using C as opposed to assembly language. It goes through all the business about how you actually, in the introductory chapter, how you do the number conversions, which you need for Lab 1. It throws a little assembly language at you as well to give you an idea of how that works with the machine. And as we go down and keep scrolling down here, it will show you how to do conversions, and this will be done again without a calculator, 16 into, so all of that information is here. There's even an ASCII chart provided in here to help you do Lab 1. Also, as we get down here, we're going to be looking at the specifics of the HCSO8 CPU. Part of all CPUs is for dealing with data values such as chars, integers, floats, whatever get processed here. Anything such as pointers will get processed here, and we'll be looking at the basic architecture of a very simple microcontroller for this first course. So the more you expose yourself to the online information, and I think that's the best way to learn, is to make you get involved with this. Now in the first week, what we're going to do is, let's take a look again at Lab 1. There's altogether about 147 things, and this is the way I'm going to mark it. There's about 140 things that you have to do in Lab 1, and the way I'm going to mark it is anything missing or wrong will be 1 mark out of 10 gone. So what I need you to do, and this is a really positive thing, is to start working with other people, to take a look and compare your answers to your partner's answers or the person close to you, because at the end of the first half of the semester you're going to have to decide, am I going to work with a project partner or work by myself? And what we're going to be doing the first week is everybody's going to compare their answers as you work through these to other people's and get to know other people in the lab that you may not know and be able to get an idea of, is this the right answer? Do you agree? Because if you don't agree, and so you have a different answer than the other person, you can argue why you're right or why you're wrong, and that's a good way to learn, is to interact with other people and just see why they have a different answer than you, because there is only one right answer.